Rocco, I can't talk this time.
Why can't you talk this time?
I'm gonna have to leave fairly soonish, so I just want to listen.
Almost.
Okay,
It's
that's
going
fine.
live.
Almost.
Hey, look at that. It's fantastic. We've gone live for the third time in one day.
That's cool.
So you're going to have to do without an intro because I'm not doing redoing the intro because, hey, the first time YouTube didn't want to take it. So
Okay.
we're officially open for business. Got that? And we're talking about Ubuntu Mate. So we're going to pick up where we left off. Nate, how are you?
Great. Fantastic. Everything is great. Everything is awesome. Everything's cool when you're part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it?
Did you try Ubuntu Mate 2004?
I did not. I didn't do anything Linuxy this week, really, other than using smart card system so I can do some training online that I had to do for Uncle Sam. So outside of that, I've been kind of a little low in the Linuxy department. Oh, I've been answering some questions, like using smart cards in Linux and stuff like that, to people, but that's really it. Just some tech help stuff. So,
well, if we have time, maybe we'll jump into it later.
Okay, cool.
All right, Dan.
Yes.
Did you try Ubuntu Mate 2004?
Oh, I've tried all the flavors, just for full disclosure. At some point in time, at least during the, we'll say beta and beyond range. Mate, what can I say? It's a really good desktop environment. I don't totally dislike it. I like the tools that Ubuntu Mate gives you because it allows me to get it set the way I want. So the theme switcher and the color changing, all of that is like presented to you early on in the install process, or in the welcome, if you will. So
yep,
I like that is that's good for me because I can get it the way I want it to be. I usually go with like the Redmond, with the panel at the bottom, and I usually switch it to like the black Mate theme, I think it's called. It just, I don't know, looks good to me. And then, I kind of go with a blue color sort of accent stuff. And that just works. Pretty much it looks like Ubuntu when I get done.
Well, Dan and Nate are helping me out with moderating this tonight, so I wanted to get their opinions on it. But we're going to open it up to whoever would like to talk about Ubuntu Mate. You don't have to. So whoever would like to talk about it, you can raise your hand in Zoom. You don't have to raise your hand.
Zoom.
You can hit the button to raise your hand.
Right.
And then I will, we'll get to whoever would like to talk about it. So Larry Johnson's the first guy to put his hand up. So let's talk about Ubuntu Mate.
Well, that's a first for me. It's great. The background on this is it always reminded me of Linux Mint, and I really didn't care for it because it was like a GTK, yes.
Yeah. Tongue twister thing.
Yep.
Yeah, and I just never really got into it, and I'm sort of like Tony said earlier today, he's not into the green. But as a lark, first part of March, I switched over to the beta version of it. I get to say beta instead of beta.
Or beta.
Right,
But,
me too.
But I really enjoyed it. I broke something on it after a couple of weeks and reinstalled it in the middle of March, and I just kept it going. Normally I reinstall on when the new release comes out, the fresh release, but I just upgraded through beta. It's going strong. I don't have anything green on my laptop. It's all blue.
Yeah.
That's an easy switch.
Yep.
I've always been an XFCE guy,
Oh, no, you-
and this really comes on strong. I really like it.
Very nice. All right,
And that's
Barbara.
all,
I'm sorry, Larry. Do you have anything else to add?
that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Barbara.
Okay. I've been using Mate 2004 since the beta came out. And it went right from the beta to the full release, formal release, whatever you want to call it. And I've had no problems with it. And anybody who complains about Mate green, on the welcome screen, you can just click a little thing to change the color, to go in and customize it to the way you want it.
Yeah,
I was
Tony.
just about to mention that.
Yeah, I was much aware of it.
That's way too much work.
Huh?
Uh,
No, well, the thing is, and then once it's set, you don't have to worry about it. Of course, I chose the dark, the Mate, the Ubuntu Mate dark with purple. Why not? Because it's a good color. With purple appointments, I think I'll call it that. So with the purple theme, and it's don't have to look at Mate green anymore. Because you can also get rid of it on the welcome on the login screen too, so you don't have to see the Mate logo if you don't want to. That's pretty easy. But yeah, I've been using it since the beta, and it just seamlessly went to the release form. No problems. I have not had any problems, which is I guess is unusual. Usually there's some little nitty thing, and in fact I installed it. I picked up a System 76 Gazelle off of eBay. It actually came from Montreal.
nice.
Yeah, and really it's last year's model, and I guess it has the integrated graphics. It doesn't have the separate NVIDIA graphics. So the guy, I guess he's a college student. He needed, for what he was doing, he really needed to have the dedicated graphics. So I got it at a really nice price, and it's nothing was on it. It had Pop OS. I wiped that off and put Ubuntu Mate on it, installed perfectly. Copied over my home directory from my other machine, plopped it on there because it has all my configurations and all my data. And all I had to do was just reinstall some programs, and I was done. And I didn't have any problems, and every single piece of software I needed was available. So I think they did a really, really nice job. I'm sure there are little nitty things that probably have been there forever, and I've just figured out workarounds at this point, and that I don't even realize it. But I really like it. I think it's the best one that they've had so far.
That's a shock that you like it, Barb.
Thank you.
I would say that, so I've said before in previous releases that Ubuntu Mate is the easiest for me to take and get set up instantly for somebody. So,
Yep.
With the software boutique, it's just click, 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 install all of them at once. Like it is the most easiest distro for me to set up for somebody that, for a computer that's not my own. So.
Mhm. And it's pretty much, foolproof. It's not going to go into limbo land and do all sorts of weird things like some other distros do. And I was just really happy with it this time. And so I've got it now on 3 different computers.
Very nice. All right, Dave Jones, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Awesome.
Just wanted to show. There it is. It's. I got 3 words. 3 words to say. Welcome. Mate tweaks and Software Center. I guess you could say it's more like 5 words, but those 3 applications is what make Ubuntu Mate one of the best distros in Linux, I think. They are the 3 programs that allow you to load up, install it, and get it configured just the way you want it in like 20 minutes to a half hour. When Martin added those programs, that's when I went full time with Linux on it, because it just made it so easy. You go through the welcome screen. It helps you set up the codecs and everything on it. And then you go through, and you also allows you to tweak. That's where you go and tweak the colors and everything. I'll admit, I'm not really a big fan of the green, but it's so easy to from the Welcome Center, you can install additional themes, and the first thing I do is put Arc Dark on it, and then I'm able to change the panel. I'll put it on so it's in Redmond. Sometimes I'll go and do the Pantheon if I feel like having a dock. And then the Software Boutique just makes it so easy to get the programs that you need. And Barbara had said a few episodes ago that what's so great about it is you can queue all the programs, so you don't have to worry about waiting there and doing it one at a time. You just go click, 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 and then you start it, and then you can just sit back and watch, and it's great. It's really great. The only thing that I've noticed with 2004, and I tried it twice, and it happened, installing it twice, and it happened both times, was after I installed it and rebooted, the welcome screen didn't come up so automatically, which usually it would in the past. So I actually had to go into the brisk menu and click on it to load it up. But other than that, it works great. I'm really happy with the improvements they made with the brisk menu. It doesn't crash like it used to anymore. So the only thing about that I wish, which you can do with the whisker menu in XFCE, is with one click alphabetize your favorites, and they just have to work that out, and it'll be my favorite program launcher.
Well, I installed Ubuntu Mate on the test machine, and the whole install went flawless. It's as good as it's ever been, but I am, because I am me, I'm going to pick out a pixel that's off. So when you switch to the Redmond layout, there is no gap between the word menu and the show desktop icon. I mean, there is like the slimmest half pixel line. There's no normal gap like you have between shortcuts, or not a spacer or anything. So that would be my pixel off critique of Ubuntu Mate.
I had issues with the Redmond theme too.
Just saying.
Literally a pixel rock.
It really literally is a pixel.
Or half a pixel.
Yeah, half a pixel. I don't know how you say that, but I'm looking at it now, and it's definitely got no space in between there. So, moving on. MC, Ubuntu Mate 2004.
Well, this one's easy for me because it's my daily driver. It's what I've been using basically since 1604, since it actually became an official flavor. But as with all the LTSs, I do a full install. I go ahead and wipe everything out, do a full install. And it was flawless. Like you said, I didn't have any issues with it. It comes up with the welcome menu, the new stuff with the welcome menu. It was super easy to go in and set to Pantheon, and then do a couple tweaks on Plank and get it over onto my left side. I use a big 43-inch monitor computer screen. Basically, it's a TV that I use, a 4K TV that I use as a monitor. So I do everything in quadrants. I love the fact that it was easy to set up keyboard shortcuts to go to the upper, lower, left and right corners. The Software Boutique I have yet to find something else in any other distro that is as easy and as not only easy to install, but has all of the just great choices that 90% of the people who are going to use it will want to use. Yes, there's a lot of stores that have everything or lots of things that you won't ever use, but the software that's in it, there's, Firefox, you've got Chrome, you've got Chromium, you've got all the different browsers. They're easy to buy, they're easy to put on. It's just, it is my favorite distro. It's what I use as my daily driver, and I've never had any issues with it. There's a couple things that, I personally would have liked to have not seen changed from 1910 to 2004. And the big one is the clock in the upper right corner. You used to be able to go in and change it so that it would show, like I could make it say Saturday, May 9th at, 8 to 18 p.m. And now it won't. Now I can't get all that feature in there. I have to play around because it's using the email client. I can't remember the
Thunderbird.
No, not Thunderbird.
Oh, the other one.
Yeah.
Evolution.
Evolution.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, it's using the Evolution clock reference because it's using the evolution calendar. So that all that stuff's linked up there.
Oh.
So it's using that calendar bit. So you can't get the same, like if I go up to the panel and add the clock, it uses the normal clock that it uses and I can do all that stuff. But so, and that's what I've done, you know, to work around it. It's just one of those, you know, I liked, you know, the way it worked in 1910. That's the only thing that I like about 1910 that I don't like about 2004. Other than that, you know, 2004 will be on my desktop for 6+ months. And then when 2010 comes around, I'm sure once I test it out on a couple different things, I'll put it on my main driver.
I think they changed that from 1904 to 1910. If you did an upgrade, it left you with your other type of what you had before. But if you, because I found this out by accident, but if you did a full clean install is when in 1910 they started doing that. But if you had done an upgrade from 1904 to 1910, the clock didn't change.
Oh, that was probably it then.
Yeah, because I had that happen on one machine. I did an upgrade, another one because I had replaced the one drive. I just wiped everything and did it from scratch and said, "Where is my date?" Yeah.
What happens if you remove evolution?
It still leaves it with the date, not with the date, with the time, because I removed evolution. I don't use it.
Me neither.
So I guess, so why keep it? You know, I only have 4 terabytes of disk space on a laptop. You know, what do I need? You know, I could have left it. I got rid of it.
Could have left it, Barb.
I know,
Just
but I got
saying.
rid of it. Didn't make a difference on the date thing, on the time, on the clock.
All right, MC, you got anything else you want to add?
Other than that, no. It was like I said, it is my desktop of choice, and it's always been, I should say, my browser of choice, and it's always just worked for me. I know a lot of people will talk about they have an issue with with different things. Whether I've used it on a System 76 laptop, whether I used it on a Hewlett-Packard laptop or a Dell laptop or a Dell Inspiron computer, I have never had any problems with that. With the install process, with any of my hardware, it's always just worked.
Very nice. Very nice. All right, Jinda, go ahead.
Yeah, I installed it to a flash drive, and then I put that into my PC, and then I tried it on my laptop, and I was very impressed that, you know, it was transparent. It just worked. Somebody put a lot of time in this, and my hat's off to whoever did it. It is fantastic. What's the other one? The standard one? That's Genome or Gnome?
Gnome. Ubuntu
Gnome.
Gnome.
Yeah, Genome. I don't know what to call it. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of that desktop, and I hate to say that. I think that's where people get into, like, you know, signing negative. But this one to me was very simplistic and very, how to say this, intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, more intuitive than, you know, using the Genome, Gnome, the 3G one. How about that?
Yeah, that.
Because everyone calls it something different. Yeah, the 3G one. Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a great operating system. There's not really much to do to it due to the fact that it works so well. You know, I mean, I think a lot of us really want something to be broken. I hate to say it.
We need something to fix.
Right. Yeah. You need something to fix. I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, everybody's making comments on it, how great it is. And I wish we could say there was something wrong with it. I really do, because that would be the only thing we could get rid of, and then we'd be done. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think one of the things is what I think a lot of people like is that there's nothing wrong with it.
Well,
yeah, you know, because it's very, very reliable. You can install it and go.
Well, I installed it to a flash drive and went from one PC to another and just ran it right off of it. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really have any troubles. It didn't, I mean, okay, of course it's going to have nitpicky stuff. Like, I like this software or that software or this color or something. To me, that's pointless to even point out. I'm sorry. I just think that this was a very nice, clean operating system, and I'm very impressed with it.
Very nice. I mean,
thanks, guys.
All right, Vince, sir, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you, Rocco?
I am just fantastic, dude.
So, I don't actually have a huge amount to say about Ubuntu Mate. A bit like Jinda, there were no problems for me. what I can also confirm is that the bug that used to affect me when using Mate Tweak to switch layouts, where it would crash on me, this appears to have been fixed. It may have also been fixed in 1910. I can't really exactly recall, but it's definitely solid now. And I sometimes like to just switch things up a little bit, and I used to notice crashes, and it doesn't do that anymore. Now, I do consider myself as still really learning a lot of all this stuff with distro hopping and trying all these different desktops. And that's the reason why I thoroughly enjoy reading release notes. And something I've got to highlight Martin's release notes.
So weird, dude. You want to read release notes?
I read all the release notes. Trust me. And Martin's ones are an absolute highlight. Like they are fantastic. He writes them in what I believe is such a personal and affectionate way that it really reflects the amount of work that's gone into not only the release notes but the distro itself, right? Especially since he started using those emojis with the 1910 release notes, it just adds a little bit of joy to reading them. But I guess my point is that you can really learn so much about a distro by both the content that's contained in the release notes as well as the way that it's written. And I think that's fantastic. Now, there is one thing that I did learn from these release notes, and I have to say to you guys, everyone that keeps calling it Mate Green, you guys are actually incorrect. I learned that the official name for it is actually Chelsea Cucumber. So the next person who refers to it as Mate Green, I'm going to correct you.
Wow. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's green, dude.
Chelsea, it's in the notes. Chelsea Cucumber.
Mate Green.
Please check out the release notes. It's really good. Yep.
So you read the release notes, and I'm one that does that too, believe it or not. Not necessarily in its totality, but just like to. Well, so Vince, let me ask. You probably read the side of the cereal box too, don't you? When you eat cereal in the morning, you're probably
the nutritional panel
too. Yeah.
Or even the ingredients.
Yeah. Oh, sometimes yeah.
Vince, you're not the only one.
We're geeks, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
I read the release notes because you never know. It's like I also read the manual if there is one.
You guys make me fun.
Yeah, that's scary, isn't it?
I would say that I'm still male in that regard, and I don't read any manuals. No.
Yeah. Well, I'm female, so I read the manual.
You guys make me feel good. 'Cause I'm one of the guys that writes the release notes. So that really makes me feel good.
I'm sorry, Dan. I don't read them.
Oh,
All right. There is quite a few new people in Biddle tonight. So if you would like to talk about Ubuntu Mate, just raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll get to you. All right. Well, Bevan, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. How's it going?
Pretty good.
First time coming to Biddle, and of course I'm in New Zealand, so for us it's not 8 o'clock in the evening. It's after lunch. It's what now? Almost 12:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday.
Oh,
so
my.
a bit of time travel there. Yeah, I use Mark 2004 as my daily driver. I actually used I went onto the beta version because I was using Mate because my other machines use Arch, but I use Mate on this machine because my daughter uses Mate. She's in Dunedin, going to be studying her master's at the university there. But she's used it for most of her university, Ubuntu Mate, so you can certainly attribute to its stability and its reliability there. Regarding to that, the Mate, I had an issue with the Mate tweak as well. I don't know if I was the only one who posted a bug.
What was that, Bevan?
For the Mate tweak, so when you went to set up your panels and you wanted to save them, it would then, you would save it, but when you go to refresh it or reload that particular panel setting, you would lose items and it would do some really weird things. So I went through and had a look, see what was changing, and then put those into a bug on the Ubuntu Mate tracking site. So I don't know if I was the only one who did that, but it was kind of a kick. You get a bit of a thrill to see how they go through, triage the bugs and then look at it and say, hey, we fixed it, which is really, really cool.
Hey, Bevan, can I comment on that real quick? So Martin actually did a live stream where he fixed that bug.
Okay.
So if you go and check out. I'll find a link and put it in. He actually live streamed the bug fix for that, so that's pretty interesting to watch.
Cool. Yes, I'll do that. It'll be really good. Also, one thing I did have issues with and been battling for a while with Light DM. I have a Asus Tough gaming laptop, and it has a Ryzen 5 with the chipset with the Vega, the Ryzen 5 chipset APU with an NVIDIA card, RTX 2060. Now my biggest problem is that it doesn't work with Optimus. You can't do the whole, it won't automatically go to an NVIDIA card when you're running games or something like that. So I actually have to tweak the Xorg to allow the NVIDIA card to work. Unfortunately, if you don't have a another monitor on the computer, the Light DM window login box disappears. It's actually on the running off the HDMI when there's no HDMI plugged into it. When you plug in another monitor, it's there. So my issue was trying to get that to work. Finally figured out how to add in the X render command to force Light DM to appear on the laptop screen. So that was one.
Might be totally, I don't know if your mother or your BIOS on that laptop will do this, but I know some of them you can configure in the BIOS, like which device is controlled as the primary. So like it will deprioritize outputs from external ones, or you can disable it entirely, which obviously that's not ideal, but it might be a possibility.
Yeah, I've had a look. I've got laptops, Toshiba and all that do. I've seen lots of laptops do that, but these tough books, the BIOS seems to be pretty rudimentary on these.
Bevan, you might want to check in the control center. It's displays where and you can actually tell it that you want the laptop to be the primary display. And it
doesn't work, unfortunately. I've set that all up and it doesn't work. Light DM doesn't seem to obey it. So the only thing was to run so in the Light DM conf, we've got a script in there saying, hey, run this script before you load, and then it all works, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, that is.
But I think that's more of a hardware issue than a Light DM issue. And they're saying that, if you the workaround was to use GDM, and GDM seems to have no problems. Same with the KDE. Login box seems to have no issue. It was just Light DM, but I've got it working now, so that's fine. But unfortunate. But otherwise, I love Ubuntu Mate. I think it's, I've tried GNOME, like KDE. Yeah, but if you're on I've got a Toshiba laptop, and KDE is a bit heavy for it. So yeah.
All right.
I love it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Dan Kelly, sir, you've been waiting patiently. Get out your notebook.
Well, everyone's covered quite a bit of the good stuff, and I'm not going to waste everyone's time and rehash how great the welcome menu is, but it's pretty complete. If you take a half an hour or less and dig around in there, you'll find everything you need to activate to make this an excellent distro. I found no issues with dual monitors, went right out of the box as far as them working properly. This is the first Ubuntu distro that I've actually used that saves the audio settings when you reboot. So, if you set your Yeti microphone to the microphone settings and you reboot, you don't get your Logitech camera in its place. Them kind of problems. I like the way the audio center is laid out. It seems like that Martin Wimpress might have stole some code from the PAV Audio application and integrated it into that suite of audio stuff, because it looks quite similar. I love the tweak tool. I use the Redmond mode. That's my favorite. The control center is really easy to figure out. Here's an issue I noticed that I have problems with other distros is games. When you launch a game, it goes right on the menu, on the monitor you want it. it covers up the panel and goes to full screen mode without windowing. I have games that actually are set in the game to go to full screen mode, and they won't. They'll go to windowing, and they'll be all resized in the box wrong, and the panel won't be covered up. It'll be exposed. But this is the Mate does a great job of actually letting the game have control of one monitor and covering everything else up. And I think that's just awesome. It's usually the primary monitor that it goes for. Steam works great in it. I've been gaming on it all week. I got that all set up. Ubuntu out of the box installs something called Farrell's Game Mode. I actually activated that on some of my games, and some of the games it works better than others, but it is in there if you find a reason to use it. Maybe Schickel or somebody like that can enlighten us what the game mode really is. And the only beef I got is it will not, it's the first distro I came across that will not recognize my printer. It shows it as being USB attached, but it will not find a driver for it. And I can go to Epson and download the drivers. They come as deb packages. You install the scanner software, you get really great scanner suite that comes with it. Printer, nothing.
All right. Maybe we can get into the Feral game mode later. But
okay.
Let's get to some of these other people that want to talk about it. Solbu?
Yeah, I've just a little comment. I'm stuttering when I speak English, so just
it's okay, brother.
Yeah, I have not. I'm not tried much of Ubuntu, but one feature that I like, I think all the Ubuntu flavors have it, is that you can install it in an OEM mode, so that if you are installing a system for someone else who is not there to tell you what password and so they want, you can install it in OEM mode, and you can install the software that they would likely need and configure extra repositories, and then you can turn it over to them, and when they boot up, they will be greeted with a screen that tell them to pick a username and pick a password, and the Fedora have the same thing. I know that that is one of the most underrated features of modern Linux systems that many people don't know about. So
very nice, very nice. All right, Big Pod, sir.
Well, what can I say? I switched from Arch to Ubuntu Mate, and I fell in love with it. It's great. Everything works, and what can I say?
So earlier, Big Pod, in the Europe edition, you said you were going to stick with it. So I'm going to hold you to that. You know that.
Yeah, my plan is to stick with it for 6 months and then switch to something else. Because my plan is that I'm going to try and do it as many different distros, or at least different families of distros, go through to them 6 months each. So I understand all of them more correctly than just VM and go away, and that's it.
All right, prophetic, sir.
Okay.
What's happening?
Nothing much, man. Just catching all the good stuff everyone's saying about Mate. What's cool about Mate was obviously it's a throwback to GNOME 2, and that's when I started using Ubuntu. So it was nostalgia hitting me all over again. And like you, Rocco, it was like nitpicking, like little small things are coming up, and they add up. And so while I was hoping to stick with Mate as like my daily, I couldn't. And the quick rundown is well, first I guess I start with this one thing, maybe because it's user error. For the life of me, when I was running the live environment, I couldn't find the color selector, that new tool that they put in the welcome screen, and it's only because you can get access to that when it's installed. And so I'm all excited about switching up the theme in Mate, because I'm not a big fan of the Chelsea cucumber. Make sure I say that right.
That's green, Mate green.
Yeah, that I couldn't get to it, so I was like, all right, forget it. I skipped it. It wasn't until later I found it out. So it might be interesting to see if they can put that on the live version of the welcome screen as well. And then I had the huge icons in Redmond mode, where my external hard drive, my backup drive, was like 32 by 32 icon, like the huge ones magnified, and the other ones were the other icons were normal sized. And I know that was a big bug from earlier versions of Ubuntu that I thought they fixed, but I guess in Redmond mode something else is different, and it's causing it to come back again.
So wait, where were these icons that you were trying to?
So you know how when in Redmond mode, it actually mounts your external
yes,
and on the right next to the left of the notification area.
Yes,
that's where they should display them. And my Western Digital hard drive was like double the size of what it should have been.
See, my icons are exactly the way they're supposed to be on that. Like I have three external drives, and they're the right size. That's and I would have noticed that.
It might have been like maybe the font. I mean, I'm sorry, the icon selector, where maybe I chose a weird icon set, maybe.
Maybe
I do tweak a lot.
Yeah.
So again, that's why a lot of this stuff is like user stuff. One thing I did notice that I don't know if anyone else noticed this too, but my window, when I have like windows behind each other, the right half would sometimes disappear and I can see through it as if I had it split. That was weird to me. And I don't know if that's something because I'm using my ThinkPad on my display dock and there's something not talking to each other correctly through those ports and stuff. I don't know. I think
there's a gremlin in your computer, dude.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
So these are small things, and they just kept on adding up. And then the last weird one was what was it? No, I lost it. Yeah, so it doesn't remember my audio settings when I lock it in my dock. So again, that might be a dock thing. Let's see what else. I think that was the major. It was a lot of little things adding up. I had some Kaja file transfer, not errors, but like I wouldn't know if it will hang or if it was going through a large file. And I don't know if it froze for all, but there was a couple times where I had to like just cancel the file transfer because I was porting a bunch of files over to USB. And I had to do that a couple times because I wasn't sure if it was working or not. And for me, it's like if I don't see the literal progress of it, it's hard for me to trust it. And because some of those documents are somewhat important, I had to just cancel it and use something else. So all these little things just had me decide to try Ubuntu proper, even though it's GNOME, and give that a solid go. And I went to 1804 because I'm becoming an old man, get off my lawn, keep my distro stable type thing. So again, I want to preface this by saying very small things, minor inconveniences, but because it's my daily driver machine, I need something that I can feel confident, trust using day to day. And I just couldn't feel I was confident in it, but just a couple hairs below saying I'm going to keep this on and use it. So I can totally see using this on my distro hopping machine for my daughter for when she needs to use ABC Mouse or Zoom for her classmates and stuff like that. But for my daily use, I had to move on to something else.
We can talk you through these trust issues, dude.
I'm ready for it.
No, just teasing. No, this is your experience, and that's what we're here to talk about. It's not about anything other than that.
It'll save me a therapist bill if I talk it out. We're here with you guys. So.
All right, Chickle.
All right, I got a few things rapid fire. First of all, the reason I think the color chooser thing doesn't happen is because it has to add an extra PPA to download the themes to do the thing. So on a live environment, that can break stuff. Probably not good. The other thing as well is when it comes to the file transfer thing, the problem is if you're running in a live environment, USBs are designed in a way to where they have a power state mode, and basically what happens is the power of the drive will fluctuate to not only save energy but also like preserve the stability of the drive.
But I didn't do that in a live environment. That was after I installed it.
Oh, okay. Were any of them off of a USB?
No, it was from my hard drive to a USB.
Interesting. So what I'm guessing probably happened, because this does happen, was it an exFAT file system?
Drive?
What was the file system on there?
On my hard drive or the USB?
The USB.
Probably exFAT too.
Okay, so the issue with that is that exFAT does really, really bad with long file transfers of like really small things. The driver for it basically will, it'll fill up the entire like immediate write cache, and then all of that gets flushed to disk, but it's not like synced very well. So there's no way for it to properly communicate with the host OS and like actually accurately track file progress. So even a lot of times, like when it's fully done, it'll report finished and things are still being written, which is why if you ever do like a large file transfer to an exFAT drive on Linux, and then you go to eject the disk, it'll take ages to tell you that it's ready. That's why. So a whole bunch of weird little issues, but they sort of, present themselves in different ways depending on however the OS is configured. So really wacky stuff. Anyway, sorry. Hi.
Rapid fire chicken there. Do you have anything on Ubuntu Mate, chicken?
Oh, it's cool. And also, like, I'm weird, but I like green, so fight me.
Right?
You said what now?
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to get in on the Ubuntu Mate discussion?
Sure, I guess. Unless someone already raised their hand.
Do it.
All right, let's go. I personally always loved Ubuntu Mate for the amazing tools and other customization that it will give you. For example, the color selection thing. You know, I was pretty bad that I memed the green earlier. I also worked with them, the developer behind that, to make sure that we tried to add the wallpapers. I originally did a pull request for that, and we were able to somehow manage to throw it in a few days before release. So that's pretty cool. But now the main Ubuntu Mate desktop, beautiful. For all I can say, if you're looking for another classic GNOME shell alternative, or Unity, especially Cinnamon after GNOME shell, the new modern elegant style got released, of course it's always going to be there for you. And the thing I love about Mate is that it has a very fantastic team, and they develop very amazing software. And also, it's just amazing the fact that they really have all these essential tools, because it's really helping developers with their work environment. My dad, for example, ended up using Mate for his work thing because GNOME 2 wasn't working. So that was a plus. And then I ended up finding this, but that was a few years ago. And I spent a few days trying, well, not a few days, but a few hours today trying to fiddle with the Mate tweak to see if I could get it to work with Cinnamon. We'll save that for another day. But otherwise, yeah, that's basically it. So I was doing some QA testing with Ubuntu Mate. Definitely a state-of-the-art, normal, casual Mate release with everything and its customization. And if you look from release to release, you can really see how they just keep improving things. There's like no limit for them.
All right. Anybody else?
Did somebody say feral game mode?
Who was the not fan of the GNOME? Was that Jinda?
Yes.
Yeah, that was me, Shickle.
I'm not a fan of the GNOME either, Jinda.
Yeah, well, you'll have this. There are a lot of people that don't care for GNOME. That's actually, how Mate came about was because, of the GNOME 3 switch, and people still wanted GNOME 2. So, yeah.
And I do love the Mate. Yeah, Mate is great.
And this is one of the powers of free software, is that there are so many items to choose from that there's always something that fits everyone.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
Ironically, I never liked GNOME 2, but Mate I like.
Isn't GNOME one of the most popular?
Well, I mean, that depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
I don't think there's any statistics anywhere that say
That's
which
code
one's
for
more
yes.
popular. So before we get into game mode, Bill, you wanted to say something about Ubuntu Mate before we end that.
Yeah, so someone mentioned they weren't seeing the errors using the panel changer. So I kind of linked some of Martin's live streams. So he did about a half dozen live streams where he did a bunch of fixes that were bug fixes and a bunch of other interesting stuff. So if you want to go to Wimpy's World and check out some of those videos, you get a little bit behind the scenes of what's going on. There's some stuff with Brisk, and the crash seemed worse than it was because you got this big announcement and it was really a race condition and it actually restarted, but it was really scary. So we fixed that. Victor Kara, who's one of the developers, has done a lot of the work that you've seen. He's behind the scenes. You'll never hear names. Victor is really awesome, and he did a lot of work on this. And Martin talks about him in this live stream. So outside of some of that, people don't get the credit that they deserve. Someone mentioned the clock issue, and I hate to say it like this, but if you go to the forums, there's a whole discussion about the deconf settings you need to go. There's not just a click. Unfortunately, right now in the panel, there's just not a click for that. But if you go into the deconf settings, you can make those changes. Let's see what else do we have here. Chicken mentioned a bunch of the different stuff with why the live session doesn't have the color picker. And that was kind of really towards the end of the development cycle. Luke Horrell does a heck of a lot of the stuff that you see with Welcome and the Software Center. That was one of the things he really wanted in. And he threw that in, got it working just before we went live. There was a mention of the Welcome not starting on that first reboot after installation. That happens every once in a while. It's really, really hard to pin down why. We removed most of those, so the vast majority of the time, the vast majority of the time, it will start on the first boot. It's really annoying for users, and it's annoying for us too, trying to troubleshoot that. That's just what I wanted to kind of throw in there. So,
all right. Last call, Ubuntu Mate, where we close it out.
Say last thing, they should move their colors to teal. I am a big fan of
You're a big teal fan, huh?
The teal and black theme. I'm a big fan. We should move to that. So who wants to
I love that Mate
So
green.
actually, when I was working with that
Cucumber green.
earlier, all the themes, and when it goes to the external repository that Luke Horrell hosts, you can download the Ubuntu Mate color generator, and that'll save it. So you can, by using that tool, you can generate your own themes if you have your own specific hex code or favorite color that you want.
There is, I think, in the color selection for the different theme colors, I think there is a teal in there.
I think there is.
I think there is. I'm trying to remember because
Yeah, there
I
is.
made a
I
beeline
played-
for purple, and
There
that was
is,
it. and I was
Barb,
done.
there is. I played with it for a while. I couldn't make up my mind from teal to blue to purple. I mean, I was
Plus,
really going
there's
wild.
there is a gnome theme. If you go to the gnome, whatever, where you can pick up download different themes,
Gnome
they
look.
have a teal one, but you can't get it to be teal dark.
Yeah.
With the Mate color selector, you can get your nice dark theme that's teal, or for me,
Yeah,
it's
that's what
purple
I
or
love
whatever.
the contrast with the teal and the dark, and that's why I feel like
That
it
is
should
nice.
be
That's a nice
distro,
contrast.
to set it apart a little bit more. But yeah, I kid.
Well, Martin in the Europe edition talked about how they're going to work on in the next 2010 version of it, maybe trying to modernize it a little bit, having its own theme, maybe having its own Yarrow theme, and yeah, so that might be coming, Prophetic. But
Well, I have to
go ahead, Larry.
I have to say one thing about it though. When I open up Ubuntu Mate, I do expect to see green. Just because I don't like green, I do expect to see green.
It's like seeing Linux Mint, not green. Like, that'd be weird.
Yeah. Green looks better on plants.
Dave.
I just wanted to keep it short because I had time. It took all of 10 minutes to get it installed and running, and ran the setup script and everything set up fine, but I didn't have time to play with it to do a real review. But I just, to be able to set up a new system in 10 minutes, start to finish and never have a hiccup.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yep.
So
Per our conversation in BDLL Europe, Linux has come a long way in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to hurt anymore.
There you go.
Yeah, it really doesn't.
That's no fun.
All right.
That's why I run Arch.
That is our take on Ubuntu Mate. That is our opinions. Not a review, just our opinions on it. Do want to thank Martin and the whole Ubuntu Mate team for all of the work and effort they put in. Can't say it enough. Thank you very much.
Yeah, big thanks to Bill and the QA team too.
Bill, thank you, sir. All right. If you didn't get to listen to the BDLL Europe edition, you might not have heard, but this week we are going to look at Kubuntu 2004. So that is the next one we're going to take a look at, and we'll try it throughout the week, and then talk about it next Saturday. So if you want to join us for that, you're more than welcome to. Not a requirement to join us on BDLL, though. All right, Schickel. Go game mode. Go.
Hey, Rocco, before we do it, let me interrupt Chickle real quick. So everyone that's listening, get on and harass Sir Rick Mills to get him to come on next week.
I would love that
to discuss Kubuntu.
That would be interesting.
I've tried to talk him into coming on BDLL and even Linux Spotlight, and he's just doesn't want to. So
can you give us Twitter handle just so that we can troll him on Twitter?
Please don't. No, I was making a joke about harassing him. Please don't troll Rick Mills.
Yeah, I'll say.
Maybe
he puts in a lot of hard work, dude. You definitely don't want to troll the guy, okay?
He shows up in YouTube, and that's
JJ,
pretty
your
great.
mic is super low, dude. Super low.
Politely ask him.
Yes.
If you're going to troll him, do it politely.
Yes, please.
Okay,
just
maybe flag him or maybe...
JJ, your mic is really low. JJ, we can barely hear you talking. Okay, so
Anyway.
we got that out of the way.
Yeah, I would like to say though that he does show up in the YouTube chat and he'll answer questions and stuff in there. So that's pretty great.
And he shows up in a Telegram group. So if you
Oh,
want to
yeah,
talk to him, you
definitely.
want to thank him for all of his efforts, you can do that in the BDLL Telegram group.
Oh, because he does a ton.
He does a awful lot of work.
Yeah.
Okay, now without further ado, game mode, chicken. Quick fire, go.
Okay, so basically the kernel controls a lot of things in regards to the hardware. Typically, you have a balanced level of performance throughput versus energy efficiency. And what game mode does is it tells your system to ignore all of the EPA ratings and just go full send, max performance, and it does it. So basically, it tells the CPU governor, which is basically like the dude that's like, you stop being really aggressive, to be aggressive. And that's what it does. So it makes it faster by just telling it to go faster.
Wow, that's the
Automatically.
easiest explanation I've ever heard.
But does it use a low latency kernel?
Well, the
Don't
game
encourage
mode
Thomas,
thing is
please.
something that's not widely advertised or anything. I picked up on it from Telegram, from Zeb talking about setting up one of his truck games. He's like mixing a recipe for the start command. And I'm like, what's this game mode stuff? So I started DuckDuckGoing it, and then it led me to GitHub that led me to all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, I got to try this out.
It's really a huge thing that like it impacts. Like it does make a lot of difference, and basically like it works on some like basic principles of just instructing the CPU controller to use the performance settings without getting into too many complex details. all it has to do is with a ratio between power efficiency or savings and performance. And there are different thresholds that your CPU typically runs at. And it just kind of says, all right, don't worry about, toning things down here. Just, push it to the limit. And that's kind of what it does.
When I'm gaming, power is no issue.
All right. There is a couple emails that I would like to get to, but I do want to talk about an issue I had this past week and some good things that happened through it. So it was a rough week this week. I'm just going to say that. But I got a gracious offer from a guy named John, who may or may not be in here, to send me a DBX 286. And that was fantastic. And he sent it out to me right away. And completely, thank you so much, John, for sending that out. Had it here, couldn't put it into the mix because I didn't have the XLR cables, the extra XLR cables. So I ordered them off Amazon. And, of course, that's not a dire necessity to get here because it's not a necessity. So they took a while to get here. Finally received those. In the process of all this, I needed more room on my desk. I wanted to mount my monitors on wall mounts so that I had more room to put because I have a very small area as far as where I can put this stuff. So I took a day with my dad and we reinforced the wall behind the desk, hung the monitors, and it was cool. Put everything back together, and lo and behold, my mic is putting out this extreme static. So I didn't change anything. I hadn't put the DBX in yet, but I had put the system back together just the way it was. But for some reason, this was causing so much audio noise that you could barely hear me. All you could hear was the noise. No idea what to do. I reached out to Dan and Eric. Both of them gave some really good suggestions. I spent yesterday, I ripped out the whole system again for the second time this week, took everything out, all the computers, and just started putting everything back in place one by one, and routed all of the electrical wires and power lines to the right side of the desk. All the sound wires went to the left side of the desk. No idea if this is going to work. So one of the things I needed was a power cable also, as well as the XLR cable for the DBX. Ordered that, but that also wasn't going to be here. So my mic is not working. It's Friday night. So I got to go get my Blue Yeti just in case. I got to do Biddle. So just in case, I got to have that as a backup. So I put everything back and I put everything to the side of it, and it still has this audio noise in it. Well, as I got the bin with the mic, also when in the bin was a power cord. So I used that for the DBX 286, and lo and behold, the power cable came today for that. But anyway, I put the DBX in and turned down the Alesis Multimix interface that I have, and turned up the DBX, which took away all of the static. And that's what I'm running right now. But it's funny because as you're doing all of this stuff, you forget that you've done, I don't know. So I've listened to Self-Hosted this past week, and Chris and Alex were talking about, have you done things before that you don't remember? Like you just lost track of it or whatever. So with this test machine and everything, I was lacking a keyboard, and I'm thinking to myself, I gotta get a wireless keyboard now because I don't have room on my desk for 3 keyboards. So I go, as I'm ripping all of this stuff out, there's this piece of hardware underneath, and I'm like, what is that? Here it was a switcher that I had, an input switch that I had bought before and put it in place and never used it. And what it is I have a button right here now that switches my keyboard and mouse to the test machine. And if I hit the button again, it switches it back to the main machine, which is fantastic. But I don't know if this has ever happened to you guys or not, but that you like put this stuff in place, or you do this stuff and then you don't remember that you did it? Like, am I alone in this or what?
This reminds me of something I experienced in 2008 in the previous place I lived. All of a sudden, I lost all. I was away for the day, and when I came home, my entire network was down, and I had lost connection to my gateway computer. And it turned out it was the power supply of my DSL modem was bad, and it was connected to the gateway machine, and then the gateway machine lost connection with the rest of my local network. So it's a little familiar that things that one normally don't think could impact things. It took me a while to figure out where the problem was, and I had to find another power pad.
Well, I bring all that up to say, one, thank you, John, for the DVX. It's fantastic, and I love it. Two, thank you to Dan and Eric for, like I said, I was very frustrated with everything because, just got everything put back together, and now I got to rip the whole thing apart, trying to find a solution to a problem I didn't even know what was going on with. So they were there and kind of like walked me through mentally these questions of what you would ask of, hey, did you try this? Did you look at this? And it was fantastic. So I appreciate that. All right.
So you've offloaded your memory to Dan and Eric.
They're just there to remind me, help me.
I'm not sure I have any more capacity, so
I hope you had some swap somewhere.
Yeah.
No swap. Sorry, not allowed swap.
And I have to agree. I can't tell you how many times I've gone down digging through the components in my basement and going, "Oh, hey, I didn't even remember I had this. Cool."
I have bins of electronic stuff. Up at the attic, in the garage, and like I don't know what's in half of it, dude. So,
well, I think anybody, if they've been involved in this kind of stuff for any amount of time, I have like several bags of cables. I don't know, it's like I don't want to throw them away because I might someday need one. And guess what? After having them sit in the closet for 3 years, it's like I knew I had that cable. I knew I had it, and I went into the big bag of cables and dug one out. So yeah, I think it's pretty normal.
And it starts getting really bad when your friends find out that you're into computers, because then they start giving you all the stuff that they don't know what to do with.
Yes. Yeah. I've gotten laptops that way.
I'm seriously over-cabled. I got USB everything for iPhone, for Creative Labs, MP3 player. I got the audio jacks, tons of RCA jacks. I'll never, ever use all of them. I mean, it just goes on and on and on with the cable stuff. And you know what? It's because these people keep changing the cable standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the problem with throwing it away is that once you threw something away, you often end up that you a few days.
Oh yeah, the very next day,
the very thing you threw away.
You're chasing the garbage truck down the street trying to get it back.
Yeah, but I got a ton of cables. I got a whole bin full of cables, but it's like I always need that one that I can't find. Like I have a dock for hard drives, external drives for 2 drives, and it takes a specific power plug to it. And I have tried every single cable I got, and it doesn't fit. I know there was a power cable to it because it was there when I bought it, but now I can't find it.
That's when you rip it apart and you hook it up to your bench power supply and just say whatever.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, what I've done over the years, because you end up with like all these weird USB cables and whatever. If it's for a very specific piece of equipment, I put a little tag on it, basically with a sticky note, and that way I know what it is. Like, for instance, Nikon has for their point and shoots, they have a different USB than everybody else. It's not a standard size. And it's like, this doesn't fit into anything. Oh yeah, it's for that Nikon point and shoot that I no longer have because I gave it away. So that's what I learned for some of the stuff, just to put a little label on them.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference because then you know what it was for.
Yep.
Yeah, but
idea.
I'm a guy, so I know I'll remember.
Right? Exactly.
I just try and cram it in there and see if it fits.
No, it's like I used to do that with all the network cables before I had made when everything went wireless, and every single Ethernet cable had I knew where it was going.
Well, the problem with having a few items that you often don't need is when you need them, you can't find them. I moved into this house last summer. I bought this house, and one of the items that I couldn't find was the safety plugs to screw into my washing machine. And lo and behold, after I moved in here, in one of the first bags I opened, there was the very SIMs. And now I don't need them.
The worst thing is when you are looking for something and you find something you never knew you had. Or maybe you forgot about it. Like I've lived in this house for 28 years, and a friend of mine says that my house is like the magic hat. I can pull out whatever I need whenever, or whatever I don't need when I'm looking for something else. And yeah, I've lived here for years. My mother lived with me the last 2 years of her life back in the 90s. So I have like a lot of her stuff still. And it's like I'm looking for one thing, and it's like, oh, I never knew I had all those envelopes. I ended up having over 200 letter size envelopes. I don't think I'll use them in a million years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never knew I had
So
them.
I had something very similar. I had an issue. Like I was away from home for a while, and I like vintage things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was away from home, doing traveling the world, when I came back home and I moved into my own house, I had like before I left, I had one Atari, one Commodore 64, and pretty much that was really it. When I got back, I had like 6 Commodore 64s. So somehow they were multiplying while I was away. So
Spontaneous generation.
I'm actually, yes, it is. And I'm actually convinced that your cables, if you don't manage them, they will actually start to reproduce and multiply. So you have to keep them under control. You got to bind them in rubber bands so they don't get out and do things.
Yep.
It's an actual. I really believe that happens.
Oh, it does.
That you need to have them multiply.
Cables.
And the ones that you need are going to get eaten by the ones you don't want.
Right.
So you have to be very careful.
But you know, that's with any kind of a hobby. It's like, I'd swear that my yarn, because I do a lot of knitting, my yarn like multiplies. Where does it come from? All of a sudden I got yarn all over in a room. It's like, where did it come from? I don't remember buying it. Spontaneously generated when I wasn't home.
It does.
And and the same thing with my fountain pens and the ink that goes with it.
Yeah.
You know, same thing.
2 years ago, I was cleaning my flat 2 years ago, cleaning up. And then in a box, I found the user manual for the very first VHS player that I bought in 1990. I bought a VHS player, and I remember selling it in 1997. And 2 years ago, I found the manual that I didn't have for the one who bought it.
Schickel, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, regards, I just went through a bin just now on the same topic. I don't know if any of you guys will recognize this device right here.
Oh my!
This is an LG Voyager. This was my very first cell phone from back in the day. It had a touchscreen too. That's kind of cool. Yeah, physical keyboard and everything. I have no idea how to go about it, but I'm gonna see if somehow I can get Linux running on this. But crazy, wild things that you find in a bin, you know, as you were saying. I think it has an antenna too. Oh my gosh, look at that!
Oh wow, that's impressive.
Freaking weird. But yeah, no, all kinds of stuff in a bin. We've got like hard drives that probably have some weird stuff on it, and I don't know.
Jinder, what is that, dude?
Oh wow.
What?
He's got a flip phone.
It's an old flip phone.
Yeah. What's
It's a Samsung.
Phones used to flip?
Yeah, it's an old Samsung. I found it the other day when in one of my
I saw that in Star Trek.
Wait a second.
We're gonna get out all kinds of old stuff.
I remember my mother and sister having the original Razor phone. Those things were the bomb.
Oh, those were good.
Samsung Galaxy Player.
You know, my dad used to have like an old
Actually, it's pretty
Nokia
good.
flip phone when my mom had like an iPhone 4 or something. And it was just so weird at night because of the phone ring would sound so weird with the weird original year 2000 themes compared to like the new modern theme.
Hey Dan, do you use that phone? Dan Simmons, or Dan Simmons, Dan Kelly?
No, I don't. It's
My mom a flip phone.
I got an iPhone now. I upgraded.
All right. I'm just asking. All right, Vince, go ahead.
Oh my!
This isn't even a phone; it's a PDA.
I was gonna say that looks like the.
It's a Palm Tungsten.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like a Palm. I loved those.
I had a Palm
T3.
This is the phone that I use. I use it every day.
But about the organizational thing, there are still some flaws in some of that. Like I've labeled stuff, and then I've left it for so long that what I've written on the label has faded away. There's a problem with that. I've also found that elastic bands also break down. So I've tied cables up and stuff, and they've broken up. So unless you go about maybe creating a spreadsheet and listing what it is and the location you left it at, I can't see a better way.
Until somebody moves it on you, then it's not in that location anymore.
So,
yes,
Vince,
that's an annoyance.
Vince, if I may suggest, this might sound crazy, but actually I have Ziploc baggies.
Oh my gosh. That does not shock me, Nate.
I do the same.
I do the same thing.
Yeah, with my socks.
Do you write on
too.
them? Do you
they
write on them? Label them?
No, I can see what they are, and I have different bins for different things. So I have like a bin that's for specific USB type devices. I have drawers for everything's just broken down by what they are. In fact, I have a bin that's just for DC power supplies, and then I broke it off, and anything that was like 5 volt or 12 volt power supplies went in their own bin, and they're all in plastic baggies. And I realize it's probably a little bit crazy. I got it, but
I don't think so, because coffee bin is I have dozens of these around with all different kinds of stuff in them.
Aren't you the guy, Nate, though, that organized your Lego?
Yes.
Well, that's just weird.
As any dedicated Lego fan does, okay. I have a shelf, a rack full of different types of Legos, and each one, it's very important because those things get everywhere. And if you're looking for a piece and you don't have it, you're gonna be sad.
Yes, agreed.
This is one tip that I have that I use when I'm labeling things. If you want the right thing to stick, I use transparent tape and tape over, and then it lasts. The note lasts a long time.
The closest I ever came to that was a fishing tackle box that I used to organize all the different sided dice I had for Dungeons and Dragons.
The thing I was gonna say, Vince, if the rubber bands are breaking down, you can probably throw out those parallel ports because you probably don't have that.
I've still got
And the
serial
VGA
cables.
cables.
I've actually still got I found a 56K modem in my storage area the other day.
Yep.
Oh my.
Don't
And
get
from
rid of
this,
that.
from this PDA, I've just pulled out
Nice.
an old 256 meg SD card.
You store a lot of
Not
stuff
gig,
on that,
meg.
dude. Let me tell you.
I have a 16 meg in somewhere.
You're back.
All right.
I love these people.
So there is an email or a couple emails that I'd like to get to. I'm not sure if we'll have time to get to them. The other week we were talking about email programs and Thunderbird and multiple accounts and that. So there was an email that we got, and I don't have the name of the person that sent it in, but he recommended that I forget, one of us was talking about Thunderbird and multiple email accounts, and I think I was part of that. But he says you can use the built-in profile manager for Thunderbird, and you have to modify the shortcut for it to say Thunderbird -profile manager, and then the next time it comes up, it'll open up to an account that you want it to. So you can make multiple different profiles for Thunderbird. Now, that doesn't work really for me in my specific case because I don't really want to have to go through that. So I would just rather use the mail option, like the webmail. So, but I did want to get that in there, that was one of the emails that we got. The other email that we got was talking about a discussion topic about DistroWatch. Now, I know this is our favorite website that we all go to every day and check to make sure we're getting the right numbers on Linux. But there was a topic on DistroWatch for first impressions of Ubuntu 2004. And as of, I forget, this morning at 6:30, the likes, I like it section had 308, and the I dislike it had 331 votes. And, you know, I don't put any credence into DistroWatch, but I do find it particularly funny that there are more dislikes for Ubuntu 2004 than there are likes. When everybody that has tried it that I have talked to loves it. So, or at least maybe they don't, you know, maybe they run ARS or something. They will have a positive outlook on it and its stability and say how great of a release it is. So I don't know what your guys' opinions are on it, but I thought it
Fake
comical.
Mhm,
Fake
mhm.
news?
Fake news.
It's fake news. Yeah.
Somebody's padding
It's
the.
Yeah, it can't. I mean, there's no way that anybody. I mean, if they're actually trying it, unless if they have a certain agenda, a certain spin, they're
Mhm.
not going to dislike it. I mean, I don't use the Ubuntu's primarily. I've tried them. I use them. I check on them. I think they're good. It's not my it's not my favorite, but I don't
Right.
dislike them at all. They're great. I mean, really. I'm not saying that here because Dan's watching me. I'm saying it because I believe it.
Use what you want.
Right
That's
now,
the best
there's a
way I
lot
feel.
of it's cool again to hate Canonical. So
It's kind of always is, isn't it?
well,
That's dumb.
it has been,
Yeah.
but you know, it kind of like subsided there for a little bit. And now I think it's because of the release, it's kind of cool again to do that.
It's
So
on a cycle.
yes, it's on a cycle, and right now the cycle is very high as far as, you know, it's cool again. So I mean, like I said, this past week was many trolling comments and all kinds of other stuff. So, but
Well, Canonical kind of fits in that fuzzy space because you've got SUSE and Red Hat very much corporate. And then you've got Canonical that kind of wavers back and forth between corporate and generic user like us. And so, you know, depending on what news cycle is out and what part of their business is being highlighted depends on who's hating on them at the
Well, I
time.
mean, a lot of people are still a little bit miffed that they might be still looking for an IPO, I guess.
yeah, but I think it goes deeper than that. I think it's like I said, it's cool to hate on Canonical. It's just there's certain people that look at Canonical like an evil business rather than a company that is number one trying to make money as a company and survive and still give back to the open source community. And I think that's a fine line that, you know, any company in this realm has to walk. And I think Canonical does a really good job at, you know, doing that. So yes, they make decisions like Unity because it was best for them at the time. They also made the decision to, you know, remove Unity. And at the time, that was the best decision for the business. So at some point, you got to understand that, yes, some of the decisions they make are for the community and for the open source community in general, and some of them are just plain business decisions. And any one of us would probably make those decisions given that place.
I think in a way it's almost like they are the company people like to hate. It just for some reason that's the target. And usually it's like the grumpy troll types. Really, it's
No,
the
you're
people.
right,
The
it
reason
is.
why I don't go to Reddit to read anything. Because you've got that kind of negative attitude. Let's just diss everything because it's not what we're using.
Well, that attitude supports pretty good against Windows too. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that use Windows not because they like it; it's because it runs their games, and that's it. There's no other choice. Otherwise, they would jump to something else.
Although, how much of the much of the flame war is behind, like, how many of these people profiles are verified versus just random internet denizens of the Netherscape,
aka trolls.
Well, I don't think you have to be verified to have an opinion. Anybody can have an opinion. It's
even
just,
a bot,
right? So I don't think you need to be verified, and you're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to not like Ubuntu, not like Canonical, and that's okay. I don't think you need to trash it. I don't think you need to go around and start flame wars and be completely negative towards people. But that's just me. Just saying.
There's people out there that just hate everything, and they're looking for things to just hate.
Yep.
You're just wrong.
I mean, it's like the same thing. A friend of mine, her husband restores vintage cars, especially like muscle cars. And the only ones he will touch, and the only ones he thinks are worth anything are Chrysler products. God forbid somebody says something about a vintage Camaro or an old the two-seater Thunderbird, and he's going to be the first one to tell everybody in the world that those are the lousiest things on the face of the planet. You have, I think it's that tribalism part of humans also. And I think that's what you're dealing with.
Do you guys think it's overall getting better? Because I've seen improvement year over year. Do you guys think it's getting better or worse?
Well, it depends on when you asked me, Prophetic. I think if you would have asked me 2 weeks ago, I would say it was getting better. If you asked me this week, I probably would have said it's not getting better.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah, well, when the release dates come through, yeah, there's a big wave of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the same thing happens also with Windows. I mean, none of us here are fans of Windows, I don't think. And I think the same thing happens there. I mean, there are some people very happy with it. I have one friend that's like, she wanted a new computer and there's nothing, she's going to get Windows because she likes it. And we're like, oh, gee, she's still using Windows 7. But, I just think that, there's some people who it's whatever the new thing that's coming out, whether it's Ubuntu, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Apple, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. There are going to be a group of people who are just going to crab about it.
And it's not just technology that has this sort of topic, has this sort of flame war. I mean, politics is like a lot worse.
Yeah, there's the tribalism. I think we've got such tribalism anymore in our society that's what it is. It's not just Linux distros, it's everything.
Totally.
It's just people.
Yeah, it's human nature, probably.
I'll agree with that.
It's tribalism.
And then there are people hiding out in a small corner that don't necessarily have too major of the two sides, e.g. BSD.
Yep.
I don't know. I know some BSD people who are just as tribal and how can you stand to just use Linux? Use a real system. Use a real Unix system.
Yeah, my lug group, there's one guy who was almost religious about BSD. It's pretty incredible.
So I break things, right? So
never.
So we hear.
So did you guys see the article on Ubuntu, OMG Ubuntu, where he talks about how to freeze Ubuntu by pressing one key? So the title says how to freeze Ubuntu by pressing one key. In parentheses, it says, "Don't try this at home." So
you did it.
You had to.
Guess what I had to do.
And when you were little and your mother said, "Don't touch the stove, it was hot," you went and touched it just to make sure.
Look, I
got scars on his fingers to prove it.
I like to think of this as me being a tester, Barb. Not like I am helping out testing these issues. So
it's for science.
Sort of like someone saying they're professional.
He wanted to make sure that button trashed Ubuntu.
So here, if you open Firefox in Ubuntu and you hit F11 and hold it more than a few seconds, more than you should, like F11 goes to full screen, and you hold it, it just freezes GNOME instantly, and it just sits there, and there's nothing you can do about it. Now I let it
Did you,
sit
like,
there
go
for
into-
a good 10 minutes, and it finally came back. But for those 10 minutes, there was nothing you could do. No key, no combination, like nothing. So don't try that at home. Just saying, but it is there.
Were you even
Now you know half of us are going to have to try that this week.
That's up to you. But I just wanted you to know that it was there and that I tried it, and he was right. It does work. So
Were you
can-
even able to like F3 or something and go into like the main bash terminal?
Nope. There was nothing you could do.
Could
Joshua.
you like just hold down the power key and turn it off?
I could have, yes. I could have
Yeah,
done that.
okay.
But as far as like being in the system and having it come back on its own, there was nothing you could do.
You're a
You
system
flooded
killer.
the input buffer and it had to process all the messages. So
Yeah, it sounds like it like clicked through a couple of hundred of those and then had to time out 30 seconds for each one.
Yeah.
Do
So-
we know? Yeah, do we know if this person filed a bug report for this?
It's a feature, not a bug.
Well, I mean, maybe if you
Yes,
said
there is a
Firefox-
bug filed for it. I think it was.
I'm gonna make my
It was a few years ago that the bug was filed.
I think it's an
So-
upstream, bug.
Yeah. So I mean, it's no major deal. It's not a big deal. I was just
Well,
laughing because I figured I had to
mean,
try
to
it.
the youth, I mean, to the normal who probably has something stuck on one of their keys or like has like an item that actually pressed on a key for that amount of time and it freezes their distro.
Well, you're gonna have other problems if you got a stuck key anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, a friend of
if
mine
you
did this.
make
A friend of mine did this 20 years ago when he had a simple web page, and he had a button on his page. It says, "Don't push this button." Of course, I had to look, and it opened a new page, and it said, "You Silverman, you shouldn't push this." And then it went 5 seconds, and then it opened as many new windows as it possibly could until the memory filled up and the windows crashed.
Yeah. So there you go. If you are interested, there's a challenge for you. All right. What have you guys been up to? Chicken, you just made a video. And I mentioned it on Fiddle Europe. And this video everybody should watch. And it talks about snaps and
Oh yes.
basically Linux is not ready, right?
Oh yes.
So
yes.
okay,
Linux is trash. I'm here for the fortune and fame, clearly.
So tell us your point, your main point of why you made this video, Chicken.
Yeah, so I made this point because of two main things. One is because I noticed a pattern between the same kind of people who were saying that like Linux, they were just diehard Linux fans, right? They love Linux. They're like, man, Linux is the only thing I'll use. Windows is trash, things like that, right? But then they go about it and they look at snaps and they say the same things that people say on Windows about Linux, or people from Mac say about Linux. They give the same, what the heck? They give the same feedback and responses.
He fired up his old phone.
Yeah,
I did. I'm reprogramming it right now. It's pretty great. Wow. They give the same kind of feedback and toxic response that some like random trashy Windows dude would give about Linux, about how it can't game and how it's incapable and incompetent. And I'm just like, are we really those kind of people? Like, are you willing to put us in that kind of position? And then the other thing was, snaps solve problems that we just haven't addressed in the past 200 decades that these graybeards have been hacking about with. Like, it solves the problems of file access and application access that just aren't addressed with normal packages. And the reason it's difficult is because it's different. And we're not giving these things a chance before shutting them down and being toxic, because what? It works differently than like my Gentoo install from 1993? I just don't get it.
We don't like change, dude. We don't like
Yeah.
change.
And I'm like, man, the only way to move forward is to actually have solutions to problems that exist. And sometimes it's hard to do that.
Well, I think some people don't completely give into the idea that if something comes out, like, for example, snaps, they're not perfect. There are issues with them. There are perfectly good opinions on both sides of whether they're good or not so good. But nothing out there is perfect. I don't care what package format you have. I don't care if it's Flatpaks or app image or any of that. But to completely dislike something and go out and troll people for it and go out and push out negativity for it is where the problem lies. Not that your opinion should matter, and it's okay to not like snaps. But again, that was a dead on video, Chicken, and it had a lot of great points, and I think everybody should go and watch that.
I mean, I tried not to be too aggressive with it at the same time. I was very, very, it's very hard to do because it's not like you can't like snaps and not be a decent human being. It's just that being toxic about it and negative, it's just like, well, just, it doesn't go anywhere, right? Like, you're not going to stop snaps or Flatpaks from existing by being a grumpy person who tells people not to use them or shouts at the clouds and says that they suck, but you could help them not suck.
I think it is that they have to yell it loud and proud, and they're convincing themselves, not others. I can't give this up. This is what I believe, and I'm going to yell at you about it because I still need to believe it, whether it's true or not.
It's kind of like, well, if you don't like them, don't use them. Nobody's forcing you.
Yeah, the only problem I have with the Snap, I think it's the Snap package format, is that there is only one provider of the Snap packages. You have to use the official Snap store. And it's, as my understanding is that this is a deliberate choice. The Snap server thing is closed source. That is the only thing that I don't like about the Snap format.
In my opinion, that is actually its biggest benefit because it gives centralization in a system that requires it. Because Linux has a problem with everything being broken up in groups, repositories, that repository. But most users just wanna get packages, don't care from where they come, and if they come from a single point, easier for them. They don't have to look on the internet in which repository this packages. It's everything in Snap Store. They can find it there.
Then you are wholly dependent on that specific Snap Store. So if something happens to that company or that group, and they have to shut down, then everyone lose all the ability to install another Snap packages unless they manually hunt down.
Well, I think you have a point, Solbu. I think you have a point as far as if that company shuts down. But let's look at it realistically here. One, that the company behind this is obviously Canonical. So if Canonical shuts down, we're going to have way bigger problems than the Snap not being able to get a Snap program.
Why? Arch and the AUR is going to be around just fine.
Okay, so there's another example of the AUR where it's not a one source where you get all your packages, and there are people that choose to get their packages that way. But then you also have other people who say, hey, that's the Wild West and anybody can package a package and it's not as safe. So again, I have to go back to looking at it from a business standpoint where you're Canonical and you have to support tons of different users. You almost are forced into, what's the right word? Looking at all the packages or maintaining all of those packages for the safety of your users. You're not going to promote something that you can't have control of because then you're exposing your users to things that they shouldn't be. So there's all kinds of different nuances to the arguments, and there's points on both sides. But, again, I think we should be able to have a discussion and disagree on it and still be civil about it, which is something that some people can't do.
One thing I thought of that I haven't looked into, I don't know if anybody here knows the answer. Is Canonical looking into making snaps function on Windows and Mac?
I don't know the answer to that, Dave.
Well, I mean,
probably not, because
that would be a true universal packaging system.
It's different way how they work. It's because it's a squash fast image, and I believe maybe on Mac they would work, but on Windows that would be quite
Well, I mean,
a
unless
fit.
I mean,
And if
Even
it
in
happens, it will
VSL
be
they don't work.
Microsoft who do the development in order, or the need to implement it. So if it happens, it will be at the initiative of Microsoft doing something.
Yeah.
Well, hypothetically, couldn't you use WSL2 to run a
that's what I was
snap?
going to mention. Yeah.
No, snaps in VSL don't work. Tried, it says they don't work.
Okay. That's actually
Just
really interesting because it feels like Ubuntu pushes that if you're not going to use Ubuntu itself, try it on WSL. So I would think, since snaps is the other thing that they push, get it
Now,
working.
I wonder if they would work in WSL2, since when they switched to WSL2, they started using an actual Linux kernel,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, and
they
it's
weren't
basically
doing in the original one.
And it's
I
basically just a
believe-
virtual machine anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work, other than, if I'm not mistaken, Snaps is similar to a virtual machine. It's not the same thing, but it's similar.
No, it's basically a
So
squash fast image, and then it's
right, but
unpacked in a
because
specific way.
it's a squash-fs image, but because you have that core snap, which contains an Ubuntu, if I'm not mistaken, 1604 runtime, and the core 18 snap is an Ubuntu 1804 runtime, it's not a virtual machine.
It's more like a container than
it's
a
a
virtual
container.
machine.
It's a
Diddle
container.
Dan, can you
And-
clear some of this up for us?
Okay, so WSL2 is capable of running snaps. You need to use a hack that I developed to run systemd, and then once you've got systemd running, you can then run any snap thereafter.
Yeah.
There you go, Thomas.
I also thought it was systemd. Also another thing that I thought of it was that it's a leftover system from the VSL1. Since I do have VSL2, but since VSL2 is still in the beta, it's not actually fully released as far as I remember. So
That's correct. WSL1 is a bit like a Linux style version of Wine. So the way that it operates, it creates an environment that is similar to Linux, but it isn't Linux.
In emulation per se.
It's not really an emulation, it's a
translation layer,
compatibility
basically.
layer. Yeah, it's a shim.
Now, I've heard some out there rumors that future iterations of the last version of Windows, Windows 10, will actually be a Linux kernel with basically a Windows shell around it. And if they ever get to that point, would there be a way to shim in systemd and thus use snaps?
Well, what
It
they're
would
doing
be-
is they're moving to a desktop as service.
Right.
So in other words,
Not
you're not
really.
even going to have an operating system on your system.
No,
All
they're
you're going
not
to have is
really.
have enough
It's
code
fear
on it
mongering.
where they're going to have enough code on it where it'll go out to the cloud, pull your desktop down onto that computer, and that's how you're going to be running. That's their ultimate goal. And so however that transport is going to work, it may be a Linux kernel with a Windows environment on top of it.
As long as HIPAA laws stay in place, they'll never be able to get to a pure cloud system.
And they're not trying to. Let's be clear. They're not trying to do that.
On the contrary, a big pot, I think they are to some degree, because they already have apps that you can push.
Yeah.
On the ready. They already have enterprise systems that are trying to with bandwidth, like push the visual side of the interface. back there.
A lot of companies already for years and years and years do everything by thin clients and having servers do all the compute, having operating systems on. But
It's
that's
not exactly a thin client, though.
But yeah, that's my point. It's like it's getting closer and closer. Like more of the stack is going server side more and more. And when they're doing this on mobile, that's where it gets interesting, because eventually, things are going to mobile first interfaces, and so that's where That's where it's like I've in my the MBA class, my dissertation, not my Keystone. One of the things I did research on was this pivot by organizations to this cloud-centered model. And there is a lot of benefits, and outside the medical, maybe the medical field and industries, other industries can move forward with strategies. HIPAA doesn't control every single aspect of computing because it impacts one sliver of a use case. So there's a lot of places where they're experimenting with this, and I'm seeing the writing on the wall from when I'm doing my research from back then, that's going there. And then since then, the headlines that I've read, it's being confirmed more and more. It's one of the reasons why I think Google has been doing those like experimental ISP runs in certain cities where they're just pumping crazy bandwidth to cities and towns, because eventually you just want to.
Yeah, they're switching. They went from Office to Office 365. They went from Microsoft Windows. They're going to Microsoft 365 as an entire system. They are trying to get there.
That's
and Chrome and
for
Google
companies
too.
For a very specific things. Look, desktop as a service or virtualized desktop VDI has been a thing for a hell of a long time.
But we're talking about more than that, though, Big Bud. We're talking about apps and actual full desktops.
Also, yeah, that's VDI. That's virtualized desktop infrastructure. Basically, your desktop is running on a server, and you're just running enough code to actually show the desktop. But it's not gonna be Microsoft hosting everything, and you just do it. Not for normal users.
All right,
believe me.
Barbara,
can I
go
say
ahead.
something to go back to? We were talking about snaps and stuff, and somebody asking about running snaps on Windows, and then said something about Mac. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at snapcraft.io. I searched snapd on Mac OS, and it says here, and this is Canonical's website, install Snapcraft on Mac OS on Yosemite or later. Snapcraft 3 can be installed via Homebrew, which is just a terminal installer, terminal-based installer. So I'm gonna try it.
Snapcraft is a builder tool for Snap.
I know, but that's a start.
Yeah.
If they have that, then I think that they would probably eventually make snaps available on Mac.
And that's what I'm talking about with the other elements too, of like pushing this cloud only type thing is like it has to start somewhere. And if you look at the history of a lot of the features that we get as consumer levels, a lot of the benefits that we get, for example, snaps, have been in enterprise for years. The containerization stuff, and it's when it trickles down to consumer land. That's when it gets really. That's when it hits us. And my point is that it's going to consumer land because it's tried and tested in enterprise land, and this is where it's a little different, because it's one thing to do a thin client and it's kind of static to some degree. For example, Android has apps where it's like on-demand apps where the second you use it, it downloads, and when you're done, it's uninstalled.
Android and snaps?
No, not so much snaps in Android, but it's a feature for certain apps where it's meant to be like on-demand, instant access to your device with your profile access, and then when it's done, it disappears from your phone. And so, not so much disappears, but it's removed or uninstalled from your phone. And so there's going to be a lot of playing around and how that stuff lands in the future. But I'm just saying that it starts there and eventually hits consumers, and then it becomes a thing. And then we have to be careful. We have to pay attention to the trends, because it always starts with like little small grabs before it starts becoming like, oh, now everybody's doing it.
Right. Aris, you've been waiting for a long time.
Okay. So snaps, as far I think, are not virtual machines or containers. They're sandboxes, so that's different. One of the advantages Snap has over Flatpak is you don't need to set up the repo like a FlatHub, and I think that's a big disadvantage that Flatpaks have. That anytime you install Flatpak, you gotta set up the repo yourself, and Snap just works out of the box. And if I remember correctly, I wish Popey was here, but I think he said that one of the issues that they have with making Snap the server side open source, it's tied very closely to Launchpad, and that will require a lot of work. And they said that the last time when they did that for Launchpad, they made that open source, they didn't get a lot of help afterwards. They didn't see the benefit from people helping improve the code afterwards.
Right.
I think that app images also seem really good, but it almost seems like they're missing things because they're not out of the box. Like people like that they're decentralized. You just need the file and that's it. But it doesn't update automatically, and that's what Flatpak and Snap do. And since you have a repo with them, like even FlatHub is the default repo for Flatpak, so that's also a benefit in that way. So those are the things I think that are beneficial between Flatpak and Snap compared to app images.
The Snap store it's not just Launchpad that it's tied into. It's tied into a lot of internal canonical business infrastructure. So unpicking it from that as well as Launchpad is where the issue lies.
Yep. John Anderson.
Hey guys. Hey, I just wanted to set the record straight about the HIPAA and healthcare thing. So I'm actually the senior director of a fairly small healthcare organization. We have 2 hospitals and about 35 clinics or so. And we're probably about 60-40 in the cloud right now. About 60% of our infrastructure runs a combination of Citrix, which is thin client basically. We also do application virtualization. We do VDI, all that kind of stuff. But there's some challenges in vertical market. But yeah, HIPAA doesn't stop you from getting into the cloud or anything. There's special protections and monitoring and legal agreements and stuff we have to do to deal with that. But no, there's healthcare organizations all over the place that are
now when you're running Citrix, are you logging into cloud servers or actual hardware servers that your company controls?
So there's actually a mix. I don't want to get into the guts of how Citrix works, but you're able to kind of federate some of the stuff. So we have Citrix apps that are hosted by vendors that run some of our core applications. We have Citrix apps on our own that we actually run, and it's all kind of seamless to the end user. And then I don't think we have any right now that are a cloud-based third party. But yeah, absolutely. We run a mix of that stuff. Some are local hardware that we run stuff on, and some of it is out on. We personally use AWS. Is what most of our stuff runs on. But
all right, I only brought that up because my wife is actually a legal assistant in a law firm that does a lot of healthcare cases, so they are very into the HIPAA, and they run Citrix systems, but everything they run is on the company's servers, not cloud servers.
Yeah. Some people choose to do that. So they're like, again, I don't want to bore people with vertical market stuff, but like, for instance, on Amazon, there is a specific curated list of HIPAA eligible services. And you have to actually sign what's called a business associates agreement, and you have to have a certain infrastructure, all that. But it's doable. I mean, but yeah, there are some extra hoops to jump through.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Very good. JJ.
Yeah, so I wanted to get back a little bit to Windows and Linux and their sort of weird commingling. There have been reports recently that Azure's been using the Linux kernel in a new Azure vSphere OS, if you haven't heard of it. And Microsoft's trying to take advantage of other technologies other than their own. It's not new. It's not unprecedented ever since Nadella became CEO. So,
all right, Schickel.
So I don't know if you noticed, but I was just this old phone that I just had. I just made a phone call with it, which was unexpected, and I didn't think it would still work. It's I just thought it was really, really fascinating that something that's been around for so long, like it's just been sitting in a closet, still connects somewhere to something, and I think it's like 1G or something like that, and I don't even know how that works. I don't know what the G's stand for, but I thought it was really fascinating that we can still do this, and it supports like emergency calling services and things like that.
Yeah.
But I've just found, I've been doing a little bit of Googling during this whole thing. There's a whole bunch of people who have been like unlocking the bootloaders for this particular phone. And running Linux on it is a thing that can be done. So this,
go for it.
This is the project that I'm starting now, and it definitely won't run anything like UB ports, but it's
run GNOME on it.
GNOME.
I heard they got more efficient these days, so
yeah.
All right, so we only have a few minutes, but Bill, Adam is not here to gloat over Silverblue, but you wanted to bring it up for a topic?
Yeah, so Fedora 32 was released just recently, and this week, several of the Fedora devs did an Ask Me Anything on Telegram. And there was a very good turnout of the Fedora developers, and they had several questions that were answered. And if you get a chance, try to go Google it, and if it's not up yet, it will be, and it's really worth your time. One of the questions they were asked is why they use GNOME, and their response is worth looking into and reading. But what I found interesting was that they said that their main goal is to make Silverblue the default distro for Fedora, and that they have a plan that it's not going to be somewhere between the next two. They kind of said the next 2 to 10 years, but it looked like the 2 to 5 year period. That's their goal, to go Silverblue. And they talked about Flatpak and reasons for that. And it's very interesting. Dorian, who has been on here before but hasn't been for a while, did some really good stuff on Silverblue, and Adam is a big proponent of Silverblue. So it's very it would be very good if you got out of your shell a little bit and tried Silverblue. It's different. And it's not like, oh, tomorrow they're going to use Silverblue, Fedora's changing. It's just, this is on their infrastructure life cycle path of what they want to do with Fedora. And it's a great read. I recommend you try to find it and take a look at it and think of some of the differences between what Fedora is doing, what Ubuntu is doing with ZFS and snapshotting, and what some of the other OpenSUSE does it with ButterFS and Zipper, what those things look like versus some of the current mindsets you have in desktop Linux.
Yep. Anybody try Silverblue? Schickle, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I think it's great actually. Like it's still in development, but really the key things for me is one, the actual base system is something that is easily rolled back and is reproducing bugs on it is actually what's really, really good about it. A lot of times people have systems where things change and everything's sort of in flux, and so nothing actually gets tested. Like the thing they give you is tested. Every other weird little thing is not tested. Like the things that you do to your system, like there's no way they can test for all that kind of stuff. And so what's really great about this is that the base system is so well configured and so reproducible in the sense of that it's separate images that are created when things change that you can basically deliver to a bunch of people, and they can all be like, yeah, all right, there's the problem, and they all have the same exact configuration, which is really, really cool. And then the second thing, of course, as Bill mentioned, was Flatpaks. Flatpaks mean that the system underneath is not affected by the weird crap you do on top. Like what you don't need to change like weird system dependencies to install something like Discord, right? It's separate from your system, because why why should your host system be affected by something like Discord? It doesn't make any sense. Like, that should be on top of it, not underneath it. So I think that's a huge benefit to it. And I think it'll also help push Flatpaks even further as they become more and more of a requirement and more of a common use case.
Larry?
You're muted.
You're muted, Larry.
That pop-up comes up. Anyway, just wanted to say on the, I installed GNOME boxes, and they offer Fedora 31 and Silverblue that you can install on that. I guess it's just a one click and you got it. If anybody wants to try it and they have Ubuntu, and I just put GNOME boxes on my Mate. I haven't tried it yet, but anyway, just a thought.
All right, we're running out of time. Big Pod, you be the last one.
Well, I did try Silverblue a while ago, but in my opinion, besides for normal users like who do not want to break their system or if they break it, it's quickly to fix it. It's okay, but for enthusiasts like us, it gets in the way quite a lot.
Well, I wish Adam was here to talk about it. He is feeling under the weather right now, but he absolutely loves Silverblue. So, all right, we are out of time, but everybody gets the last word. So, Nate, last word.
Thank you for a wonderful night. I love talking to all of you wonderful people. It's a great time, you know, cables and whatnot. So I look forward to next week when I get to see you all again, knock on wood or, you know, vinyl or whatever you have in your house. And have a good night.
All right, Dan Simmons.
Thanks as always, Rocco. Good discussion. Got the double dose of the Biddle this week with the Europe edition, and that was fun too. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Enjoyed Mate the little bit I did test. That was super great. Thanks to the Ubuntu Mate team and Bill for his QA testing. As always, Bill helps out other teams too, so
yep,
he's not just on Mate. Look forward to Ubuntu next week.
Yep. Jinda, last word.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
Other than that, go Linux.
There you go. Tom, last word, brother.
Pumpkin time.
Pumpkin time. Eris, last word.
Thank you very much for the show. I want to thank Popey and Martin. They were on Biddle Europe. Come on to hear our reviews. And also Bill, who's here now, and he was here before, to hear all the comments about Ubuntu Mate and also all the other developers. And I'm excited for Ubuntu next week.
Dave Jones, last word.
Thanks, Rocco, for being such a great host. Really enjoyed the conversation tonight. I want to thank Martin and Bill and the rest of the Ubuntu Mate team for making such a great distro. As I said before today, that was the distro that got me full time into Linux back when it was still Ubuntu Mate Remix.
Whoa!
It was just it just swept me away and took me away from Windows, and I really appreciate that and the community that it introduced me to.
All right, Tony, shall we break the news to him?
Yeah, go on, why not?
So Tony beat everybody because he had it installed on Biddle Europe. So there you go. He's first. Anyway, Tony, last word.
Thanks for the double portion, Rocco. Very good. Enjoyed both. A bit tired now, but it was worth it. I haven't got that else to say, really. It was already installed at the end of the last show, so, you know, too easy.
Yeah, right? Too easy. I let the cat out of the bag.
Anyway, take care, everyone. Till next week. I hope to see you all again. Keep well, keep safe. I've been on lockdown now. I know a lot of people have, but it's 8 weeks now. but I'm supposed to be finding out later today, as it's actually Sunday for me now, about some form of freedom about actually may be able to go out from Monday, but we're not sure yet for definite. So hopefully it'll free up for other people as well, because the country I'm in, Spain, as you all probably all know, is had it really bad. Obviously not as bad as you guys in the States, but as far as Europe goes, we were one of the worst. So if we're lightening up things, then hopefully other countries are getting to do the same.
All right. Salvi, last word.
Yeah, as many people probably have figured out, I'm a free software champion. So it's been fun to exchange ideas with people of different opinions. And as Tony said, our country is one of the least affected in Europe. So we are already starting to open up a little bit. This week on Thursday, I think, we were allowed to gather in groups of 50 people if there is someone hosting something. And it's going in the right direction. So.
Yep. Very nice. Dave, last word, brother.
In honor of a friend who's not with us this evening, thank you, Rock & Co., for a lovely time. And thank all of you for putting up with me, and I will see you all next week.
Very nice. Colin was in the chat, but we miss him here. Dan Kelly.
As usual, Rocco, thank you for putting on such a great show today, 2 of them, in fact, and thank the helpers that you have that help you make this possible. We had a lot of really good discussion tonight and this afternoon as well. And everybody stay safe, and hopefully some of you get some freedom this week and be able to move around with others. Won't be me.
Larry Johnson, last word.
Hey, thank you very much, Rocco. Everybody appreciates what you do, so thank you. Thank you, all developers, and really appreciate seeing Tony and the other guys doing double dose on BDL today. Great to see you both times.
Barbara, last word.
Okay, I want to thank you, Rocco and Dan and everybody who makes this possible. And just thank you for everybody who's here this week. And you know the drill. Stay safe, stay home, wash your hands, and stay at least 6 feet or 2 meters apart.
There you go. Thomas, last word.
Well, thank you for letting me on this week. I know I didn't talk much this time. I was heavily distracted. Other than that, apparently my state here in the U.S. is very slowly starting to open up. So hopefully that continues on and we don't have a second wave of the Rona.
Thomas, shh. Positive. Be positive.
I'm trying, but it's very tempting to, like, as soon as, a restaurant opens, go out and eat like every single night because you haven't got to do that. And I'm kind of wondering if we're going to have a relapse, but let's hope we don't.
No restaurants yet.
Yeah, no restaurants yet, but soon.
There you
hopefully.
Go. Vince, last word.
So there's been some stuff in the chat about Waffle House, and it's making me miss Zeb from here.
Yes.
And of course, many other friends I've met through this wonderful community who aren't present today as well. Miss you guys too. But thank you, Rocco, and of course, Nate and Dan. Wonderful, wonderful show you guys always set up for us. And see you next week.
Diddle Dan, last word.
Oh, that's me. I wasn't ready. A couple of plugs. You can see my background is nicely blurred. That's a new app that I've released into the Snap Store called Fake Cam that does that. And I've set up a Twitter account which tracks new releases into the store. It's called snapstats_org.
Very
That's
nice.
on Twitter.
Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. MC, last word.
Just once again, as with everyone else, thank you for
doing this and having this community, and thank everyone who showed up tonight for throwing all their opinions in, and having a great chat with everybody, and looking forward to doing it next week.
Chicken. You're muted. Chicken.
Hey there. How's it going? Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. It's great to see all the work that's been going into the Ubuntu flavors and just Linux in general. So many different things have happened and changed. And no matter what EB says, you know, he's still pretty cool. So, you know, I'll give him a pass.
Yep. Yep. Bill, last word.
Yeah, so I mentioned a few people earlier. I just wanted to do a couple shout outs to, first of all, to everyone that did any part of testing in the testing weeks or any of the beta testing coming up to the 2004 release for Mate, for any of the other flavors. Thank you. You guys help make things what they are, no matter what the release, if it's vanilla Ubuntu or any of the flavors. The hardware you have, the experiences you have, help us do things and get things out better. So that was long-winded. I want to point out again, thank Luke Horwell for everything he does. And there's two other people I want to thank. One is Nikolai. You might know him as Norbert. Norbert does so much, not just for Mate, for all the distros. And the other one, another unsung hero, is Michael Dooley. Michael, if you come into our forums, Michael's one of the moderators, and he's always helping people. So, and then thank you to Rocco and Dan. So
nice. Bevan?
Yeah, hi. Great. Thank you for welcoming me on this show. It's my first time. And thank you, Rocco, for this great opportunity to meet people from other parts of the world, especially from here in New Zealand. We're under lockdown 3, so hopefully that will lift and get a bit freer next week. We'll see. And yeah, I've enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll be able to come back next week and join you guys as well. Thank you.
All right. Hope to see you next week, brother. Prophetic. Last word. Don't drop no bombs, okay?
No bombs. No crazy questions.
Okay.
This
All right.
time. Speaking of people that we miss, Dark One, where you at, brother?
I know, right?
We miss you, man. Hope everybody stays safe, and thanks for hosting another great show, Rocco, and great discussion, everybody. Enjoyed it.
Big Pod, last word.
We are also getting out the lockdown, and actually I'll be able to go to school, do internship on 25th.
Sorry.
Pod just dropped a big announcement, so had to get good music.
I am partially afraid that people won't be able to control themselves and try to do everything at once, and we'll just have a repeat, and it'll be all for the worst. So please, people, don't, if you get out of the lockdown, please stay for a while, control yourself. Don't rush to restaurants, pubs, if it's not necessary. Same with all services. Unless it's necessary, please don't rush. Don't try to fill the time that you lost by trying to cram everything together and cram all your friends in a small rooms, because you never know what can happen.
Paul, last word.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Great show. See you next week.
JJ, last word.
Thanks very much, Rocco, for both streams today. Got to actually, between both shows, submit some feedback into the Ubuntu Mate forum, so good stuff there. If Tony was very early getting his install for Kubuntu today, I was way ahead of him because I have a USB loaded up with Kubuntu already, so I'm ready to install it as soon as I leave this application.
How can you be ahead of him if you don't have it installed yet?
Well, I mean, loaded it up on USB a long time ago, but...
All right. Okay. Steve, last word.
I want to wish all the mothers, would-be mothers, stepmothers, adopted mothers, fathers who are mothers, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, for Mother's Day tomorrow. I hope everybody can enjoy it one way or another. Yeah. And it's great being with you guys, and we'll see you, maybe some of you in the morning.
All right. Chris, last word.
I guess I deserve that for coming in really late. But anyway, don't really have a whole lot. Good to get back into the habit of being on the stream, and good to see you all. And we're coming out of the dark times. Hopefully we can actually do a meetup sometime somewhere.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for us this week. I want to thank the Ubuntu Mate developers for all of their work and effort. And I would really like to see maybe somebody from Ubuntu talk to us next week. That would be awesome. Linux Spotlight. So this past week, I talked to Dan Johansson from the Manjaro ARM project. This coming week, I sat down with Chris Weir, who has a YouTube channel. Fantastic guy. We talked for over 2 hours. And some of it wasn't even about Linux. It was just us talking about tea. And I mean, it was a great conversation. So I'm really looking forward to release that. I think people will enjoy it.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Dan, Nate, and Bill, for your help tonight. And I wish Adam, Eric, and Zeb, who are not feeling well tonight, to get better soon. The last person I'd like to thank is my mom. Thank you for everything that you've done for me throughout all of the years. I love you. Happy Mother's Day. We will see you guys next week. But until then, long live Linux.
Later. See you.
Bye. Love you, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day.
You're going to make me
Happy
cry.
Mother's Day.
Yeah, we love you, Rocco's mom.
Yes.